Thank you to everyone who joined us on Zoom. I know it's been a bit of a struggle, I guess the word is, but I'm very happy to be doing this live slash Zoom interview because this is the first of many interviews I am planning to do on the page. Let's see how it goes with the lives. Um, I want to talk to various experts in different fields of child development and parenting, and give us all some good information, some proper information in the sea of information that we have online today. So today we're going to be talking about the power of play in child development, in our children's development. And today we have Julia, who we already spoke to, but I'm going to just do the proper introduction. Julia is joining us from Oman, and she's a play therapist, a parent educator, and a counselor from Serbia, and who spent like 10 years, the past 10 years in the Middle East, right? And for
Uh,
the rest of introduction, I'm just going to give the mic to you.
Thank you so much, and I really apologize for the delay. I'm really happy to be here and to join the conversation and to have everybody who joins. Thank you. I understand it has been a struggle to do it later like this. So yeah, thank you for your introduction as well. I have been in the Middle East for around 10 years. Before that, I lived in Spain, and throughout those years, I worked with parents, I worked with kids, and then in different settings, either in the counseling counseling role, in a teacher's role, and also in the therapist role. So yes, I provide support to parents, and I also work with kids now because I'm pregnant. I had stopped working with kids for some time, but in general, I was providing play therapy sessions for kids who are going through different social, emotional, and behavioral challenges. And when it comes to parents, I also work with them to support them to understand their child's play from different settings, mostly during transitions, big events, emotional challenges, and to support their overall well-being. So I'm really happy to be here.
All right, thank you so much, and congratulations on your pregnancy.
Thank you.
Um, so, Albert Einstein said that play is the highest form of research, right? And we often hear that play is a crucial part of children's development. But can you break down exactly why is play so important for child development and how exactly it impacts their growth?
hmm Yes, definitely. There are many things that we can read online and many things that all of us know about play from the experience of seeing kids and from reading about play. I would like to emphasize on one quote that I really like, and it's from a play therapist, like a founder of play therapy, and maybe you read about it before, but it says that birds fly, fish swim, and kids play. So this is
Right.
in the essence of what really is play for children. For children, play is their essence, their nature, and something that really supports their overall development. And we can see it in different aspects. We can see it in the school when it comes to their learning and academic growth. But I will not be talking a lot about that part. I'll be talking more about the other aspects of play, where through play they can develop their social and emotional skills. They can become more resilient, more independent. They can be able to express their emotions, and they're able to communicate their needs, to explore the world, to enroll with others, to engage with others. It's like when we say that adults and parents and teachers, they would be able to communicate what is happening to them. And usually the parents and adults see play as something that we do in our free time. But for kids, play is their everything. And they don't see it only as free time, but they see it as something that is in their nature. It's their job. And through play, they can really establish so much.
Yeah, but is it possible for a child not to know how to play?
Well, a short answer, I would say it's no. But if I would elaborate it more,
Yes, please.
there are many things that we need to consider when it comes to that. So um, I don't like giving short answers because every child is different.
Nothing about children is a short answer.
No, no. Yeah, so when it comes to them not being able to know how to play, so there are certain things that we can consider. Usually, like as I mentioned before, play is their nature. So every child has their own unique way to play. But when we look into their development, there are certain aspects that sometimes would enable a child to be able to play in a certain way that that adults expect them to play in that way. So, for example, If we look at a child who we think should play using puppets and the role-playing situations, but they don't do that, maybe they like to line things up or they like to color. Some people would maybe think, okay, so my child shouldn't be playing like this. According to their age, they should be playing like another way. They should be using role play to play. But for those both kids who are playing either or another way, this is for them their unique way of playing. So this is the first thing that we need to understand, that every child has their unique way. Then on the other side, there are certain things that happen in child's lives. Every child has different experiences, different life events that they go through. And sometimes, for example, if a child goes through something traumatic, especially kids who are forced to grow earlier than they should, sometimes they forget how it is to be a child. And then maybe they would first, before they actually start playing in the way that they really, the way that it's natural for them, they would first need to overcome certain obstacles and then go back to certain aspects of playing. Sometimes kids might have some motor challenges, or they might have different like needs. For example, they may not be able to express what they need in play in a certain way, and this is where we can support them. But still, it doesn't still mean that they don't know how to play. They know, but they know how to play in their own way.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, every parent would like for their child to play alone sometimes. So can we, or how can we teach our children to play alone?
Yeah, every parent would like for their child to play alone. I understand that. Yeah. And for that, again, we would need to think about a few things. We would need to first think about our expectations. Sometimes we have very high expectations of what a child should do in certain age. Sometimes not even our expectations, but maybe some pressure from the outside, some external factors is putting us into the pressure of, oh yeah, they should be playing by themselves at this age. But first, just to think about those expectations, and then also to think about their developmental age. Often, especially when they're younger, up to 3, 4, we cannot expect them to sit for hours on the side and play by themselves without even stopping by and saying hi to us. And this is another thing. So to consider their developmental age and also their interests. Sometimes we would like them to play in a certain area that we developed and established for them, but maybe the activity that is there is not in their interest. So then this is another thing that would probably stop them from playing on their own. But usually it's our expectations, and sometimes like even staying next to the child, or not even next to the child, sometimes being in the same room, or while the doors are open, being in another room doing something, and then allowing them to come, and then just, for example, if they would, sometimes kids would, for example, pack the bag and prepare the bag of things, they play out the going to school, or they pack their bag for traveling. And then they would come and they would say, hi, I'm going, bye-bye, see you later. Sometimes parents would get worried and maybe they will not join in their play. Sometimes they would just stop that imagination, and because they might feel, oh, like, what is he or she trying to tell me? But in those moments, those simple mini interactions, playful interactions, this is when we can just join in without actually joining in. So we don't have to go back to the room, sit next to them, and just start playing for hours. We can still be far away in different rooms, but we can just allow interactions, and maybe we can say, oh, bye, see you later, or when they just simple interaction through laughter. And then they can, when they come back, we can just say, oh, you're here, you returned from your trip, how was it, etc. So like just to consider those as well.
Okay, so I think you actually answered my next question, because I see from what you're saying and from what I've learned before that a lot of this is on the parents. Like a lot of this play is based on how we also behave, right, towards it. What can we do? What can we as parents do to ensure that we're supporting our child's growth through play?
Like we can join in their play, but we don't have to be joining in their play 24/7. So to support their play development, we can, I like to use those mini interactions throughout the day. So it can be very simple. It doesn't have to be complicated, just like sitting on the floor and playing with them. It can also be done in that way. But to think about the quality of time we spend with them and not the quantity. Sometimes like 5 minutes of playful interactions for some kids will be enough to fill out their love and belonging cup and to support their development. Also, to use different moments throughout the day to invite them in playful interactions. For example, if it's during a challenging behavior for younger kids, sometimes they don't want to wear shoes. This is somewhere where we can also use play. We can just act silly and pretend that we put the shoe on the head and we ask them curious questions. Does this shoe go here or where do I put it? And immediately they would reduce the tension and they would join in. And this is not the full 1, 2, 3 hours of sitting with them and playing, but it's actually simple interaction. Then also we can do those longer playful interactions with them when we actually dedicate a certain time, weekly or a few times a week, where we can stay with them for that one-on-one special playtime with the child, where we can have certain toys only for that special time. And in those moments, we allow them to be the boss. We allow them to guide us, put us in jail if they need to, because this is what they sometimes would like to do, to be silly with us, to make jokes, to make fun of us. And it will not be counted as rude, but it is the way how they would play and interact. So those are some simple things, but it's very good that we invite them in those daily moments, because it's not necessary that we spend those 3 hours a day when we just play with them, but simple moments throughout the day, while we cook, while we have some certain behavioral challenges, throughout emotional expressions. This is where we can do a lot.
What about toys? Because as parents, we're often very pressured to buy the latest toys, and this toy will give you more free time, and they're going to keep the kids engaged for long periods of time, and so on and so on. How many toys does a child actually need to be engaged?
When you mentioned we want the toy to, the smart toy, we want to have the smart toy because we think that with smart toys, those that talk, they will engage a child in a longer hours of play. And if we would observe a child, we would know that this is actually not a reality, because they would get that toy and they would use it for a day, 2, maybe a week, and then they would just put it on the side and they wouldn't even interact with it. Just because those toys that are talking for them, that are smart, are not the toys that are actually engaging them in using their imagination, in thinking, solving problems, and really thinking in a way how they could use that toy to build something, to develop something, to create, to express. But the toy is actually talking for them. So it's important to choose the right toy. And when we choose toys, and when we think about the amount of toys we choose, it's good to follow their interest, and not only the interest in terms of what type of characters they like. For example, if they like sharks, to buy them sharks, or animals, to buy them animals. This is one of the things that we can consider. But to also think about the playful behaviors. So how they interact with that toy. Do they like to roll it? Do they like to transfer it? Do they like to throw it? Do they like to wrap it in a blanket? Are they playing in a nurturing way? Are they playing in a more aggressive way? Those different playful behaviors we can also observe, and this will also help us choose the right toy for them. But always, in a shorter answer, less toys is better for them. And there was a study that was done in the States, where they were just comparing how many toys a child would need. And in one of the studies, they said that they compared a child who played with 4 toys and another where kids played with 16 toys. And those kids who played with 4 toys actually used their imagination more, and they were more creative in problem solving than kids who had all of those other toys. So less toys is better. And I cannot just say you need to have this certain amount of toys, but just to have as minimum as possible. And sometimes it's good to just keep them in a box on the side and then return to them later. Just place them in a way that it looks inviting for them, so that they would be more willing to play with it, instead of just putting everything in a box, in a messy container, and then they just dump everything on the floor, and then it's a huge pile of Legos and cars and
Yes.
dolls and everything in one. I've seen
This
it, yeah.
happens. Yeah. No, this happens even if you have less toys. Even
Yeah,
if there's
it's
a
also
minimum
easier,
number
like,
of toys, they all end up on the floor anyway
yeah, but it's also
at
like
some
easier
point.
for us. I know, like in
Yes.
play therapy, I do have toys that have its own purpose. So every section in play therapy has its own purpose. But even for me, when I have a child who comes and who just plays out in their own way, and sometimes because in play therapy we don't, um, there are certain boundaries, but they express themselves in any way they like, and sometimes it means that they would throw the toys on the floor, and the room will be very messy afterwards.
But you mentioned that smart toys are not good toys, right?
Yeah.
What are good toys, or what are the best educational toys?
For again, it depends on the child's interest. Um, it's like I always prefer a toy that is more natural, oriented towards nature. So, for example, toys, not even like, they cannot be called toys, but objects, material that we can find around us. It can be shells, sand, twigs, and like different pebbles. So all of those things, items, can be used in educational purposes and in all kinds of purposes, not only educational purposes. Toys that can be more open-ended, so toys that can be used in a variety of ways, not only one way that you have only one certain answer, but in different ways, so that they can actually try out different solutions and then find what works for them, and then make mistakes along the way, because making mistakes while learning is really crucial for their development. And we often tend to forget that, because sometimes we are scared that they might get hurt while making a mistake, and they might become weak, but actually making mistakes is helping them get stronger. So some of those things, I like to use wooden toys a lot, um, and toys that are like small characters that can be used for all kinds of purposes. If it's also a child's interest, so the child who likes sharks, they may use sharks, they may use different water animals, sea animals, they may learn about the other characters as well. And it can be mixed with other things. Silk scarf is something very nice. Even like role play materials, our own clothes. I remember when I was young, I would go into my mom's drawer and I would put her necklaces, I would wear her high heels, and then I would learn about different roles. I would learn how to, like, how it feels to be an adult, and then I would feel a grown up. I would just practice to be in a different role. This is also education,
Yeah.
and then learning, and also to use kitchen tools in, like, to to engage them in cooking, to engage them in daily activities, like tidying up, brushing, different things that can be done at home as well. And even from a very early age, even a 1.5 year old child could actually help out in certain things.
I always like to say I haven't done laundry by myself in the past 2.5 years.
You do
Yeah.
laundry with them. They can count. They can separate colors. They can put things inside, so they would
Just
learn
take
to
them
control
out and
their
put them in is oof.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hand-eye coordination as well. So they and also the way how they put it inside, you will also be able to understand how they feel. So if they are like pressing it hard, if they are throwing it inside, if they are patiently folding it and helping you fold, all that movement that they're doing is really giving us a very, very important information about how they feel, what they know, and how they will engage with other people in the world.
Yes, we're going to talk about play when it comes to their emotions as well. But here's a rule I usually follow for my children about toys, that the toy should be an active instead of a passive. Well, it has to make the child active participant instead of being a passive participant. Because if the toy is doing everything and the child is just sitting and observing, then it's not the right toy, right? Would you, as a play therapist, agree with this?
For play therapy setting, yes. In play therapy setting, we do have uh, almost like, no, every toy that we have in the room is open-ended and it's activating the child. So we don't have the technology, we don't have toys that are like loud and talking. We do have a microphone that kids really love. And also depending on their interest. Sometimes at the moment we're not talking about kids who are neurodivergent, but kids who have some challenge in expressing, in communication. For them, it was good to use the toys that can support their communication, if that is the goal. But if a child is developing typically, and even for neurodivergent kids, they can also benefit a lot from toys that are and objects that are in a way open-ended, or allow them to use them in any way they want, without just stopping them from expression and allowing them only one certain way. Because there are many educational toys that they can use in their schools, in their kindergarten, nurseries, that are educational. But when they come home and when they're at home, they need the freedom. And the freedom is really important for their overall well-being, emotional, social well-being, and development in general. It's the same as adults. When we come home, we don't want to have another task to do that is related to our job, but we want to come home and we want to feel relaxed. And for kids, play is equal relaxation and joy, and a pure joy and enjoyment in general. So this is what they need as well.
Yes. How can parents easily create more meaningful play experiences without buying endless toys?
But I would say observe the child. This is very the child will give us the answer what they need. So without thinking that they need this for their development, to think about what the child is actually telling us that they need, instead of, for example, creating a messy area for them because this is what we think they need, to understand what they actually want from it, and to create the activities that are related to that. So if it comes to us creating something for them, but also being ready to be silly with them, and just getting on their level, and getting on their level in terms of like what their emotional level, what their behaviors are trying to tell us, and also even just trying to understand what is underneath their emotions and behaviors. And then when we know that, it will also help us create those meaningful, playful moments. Because if we are just focusing on what should be done and what they should know, what they should learn, what they should do, it is stopping them from actually learning. And then we're creating like a miscommunication between each other. So just to be silly with them in those simple moments, to join on their level, to explore what their play is trying to tell us, what their emotions and behaviors are trying to tell us, to use simple daily moments to connect, and to just join in. And if we notice that they need certain support, to organize that activity for them, but not to focus too much on organizing their play, but allowing them to organize the play for themselves.
So you touched on emotions, and my next question would be, but I think you actually kind of already answered it. Maybe you want to add to it. Can play actually assist in helping children manage big emotions? You know, we call them tantrums.
Definitely it can. And when it comes to overcoming big challenging situations, play can be there for them. Like when you say that, you mean about the tantrums, right? Or you mean in general about the emotions? What do you exactly?
Well, in general, but I think the parents mostly struggle with tantrums. But let's talk about children. Like children have these big emotions, and play can actually help them.
Yeah, when they have those big emotions, first thing that we should understand is that it's very important for them to express them. And sometimes they can express them through words, but words are not always enough for kids. So if a child says, I'm sad, I'm hurt, I'm angry, this is their verbal expression. But usually, many kids, they don't have that verbal expression of how they feel. Maybe they will learn the expression, but usually their body needs more than what the words can actually mean and say. So when it comes to those emotional meltdowns, tantrums that kids often express in general in their lives, it's good to use play to help them express those emotions. And it can be done in different ways depending on the actual underlining emotion under the meltdown. Sometimes if they have if they have big emotions in terms of being angry, it's good, for example, I like to use like a big paper and then to allow them to punch in the paper to help them express it externally instead of keeping it in. For example, if underneath their emotions is sadness, it is also good for them to use certain puppets, and then we can ask them, okay, so can you show me how is this puppet feeling, or like what is this puppet trying to tell us? Then the puppets can actually talk, and it can also minimize the pressure on them to share about their own feelings about themselves, but they would use the puppet as a way to communicate. I like to use drawing with kids in those moments. Sometimes they will not be able to fully say what they feel, but sometimes they will just scribble on a piece of
Mm.
paper.
Right.
And this
Right.
is also a great way for them to express whatever the emotion there is. And then on the other side, parents can be playful with them when those tantrums and emotional meltdowns are there. So, um, and sometimes when I would say to parent just be playful in those moments, they would think, oh, but maybe it means I would be mocking them for their emotions. But no, so it doesn't mean that in a certain moment of them having a big emotion, we should just uh, stop the emotion and just distract them by using play. This is not what it means. But first, support them in regulating their emotion, and then when they are almost towards the end of their emotional expression, when their tears slowly start to slow down, when their heart rate is slower, when they are not in the heat of the moment, then offer a playful activity to deepen down the emotion, which can be what I mentioned, something like art, using punching to express, using puppets, using some stories, messy play as well. So there was a story with one girl that I worked with. So she really missed her mom. And in that moment, she really had very big emotions. So she didn't want to play with any of the toys that were offered. She just wanted to throw things, and she wanted her mom, and that was it. She was 5. And then in that moment, what I didn't distract her with the toy. I didn't tell her, no, 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 let's look at this puppet, look at this. The puppet is happy. Look, we need to play with this puppet. No, so I was just there. I was quiet and I was just observing what she was doing. I would offer her a hug. I would offer her to come near me, which she accepted. So she was near me after a certain period of time. And then I just opened the book and I left the book there, and we were together. Just I was breathing and I was modeling how I feel when those moments would arise in my body, to give her the way to express. Then she slowly started moving the book, and the book was just like she was reading the book slowly. It was the book about emotions, and then suddenly she stopped, because in the book it was mentioned something about um, like when I miss my mom, then um, my mom. I know that my mom will always come back, and that means that I'm brave. And then she stood up and she went to the costume area. She put on the cape, and then she told me, "I'm brave, and then let's go and do some messy things." And then she started playing with the messy water. She added pink color because this was the color of her love towards her mom. And then she was pressing and squeezing and mixing water and then adding sand, adding glitter. And that additionally helped her express her emotions even more, because the tactile um, sensation on her hands allowed her to just feel and get the energy from her hands that were stuck out. And then she started communicating with me about her mom, how she missed her, and then how she feels brave, how she can't wait to hug her mom. And she totally calmed down. She was completely emotionally regulated. But the whole picture of her emotions and an adult being calm is what supported her. So, yeah, I hope I didn't make it too long, but
No, actually, my following question would be, how can play help the parents deal with the child's big emotions? But I think you covered that, so I'm just going to move on because you already covered that, right?
when it comes to how can play help parents, it can also help deal with them in a similar way, just to first understand what the emotion is trying to tell us and what the child is trying to communicate to us. And it can be done when they play, and it can be done when they express their emotions through certain behaviors, and to offer them ways to express their emotions without just stopping them from feeling.
How can we start encouraging our child's social and emotional skills at home?
So starting from um, early ages, depending on how old are the kids of parents who are here. But uh, I always tell parents to start from themselves, to first figure out their own emotions and how we feel, and to be honest with our own emotions in front of kids. Not to hide the emotion, not to make it look nicer than what it is, but to be honest with our feelings, because kids, they don't hear the word, but they hear the energy and the emotion that we have inside. So this is the first thing. Another thing that is important is to be ready to accept the challenge when they invite you to play. So what I mentioned before, if they are inviting you to play in an aggressive way, do not get scared of it, but to join in with certain boundaries, of course, but to join in, because even aggressive play, even the play that we don't like, uh, can can also help us connect with kids in many aspects, and it can tell us a lot about the child. Um, so yeah, then to allow them to be independent at home as much as not as much as possible, and to allow them to make mistakes early on, because making mistakes, and as I mentioned even before, is something that will help their growth, and it will help their social and emotional development. Um, to interact with them, because in the first years, when we talk about the first 3-4 years of lives, they learn social skills from us, and they don't learn from other kids. They learn from us. And even at that age, although they might be sitting next to a child and playing with a child, they wouldn't be playing in a cooperative way, but they would play with us in a way that they can learn to play with others. And then we are the ones who can model it to them, even if we don't sit 24/7 with them on the floor and playing.
Right. A lot of people here in the UAE or in the Gulf area, or a lot of people who follow both of us, um, we we kind of move a lot, especially in the UAE. We move houses quite a lot, depending on the best deal we get each year. Can you give us some concrete tips? How can we help children cope with big life changes like moving houses, like moving countries, or even going to a new daycare or starting daycare?
Yes, so with that, play can help really a lot, and especially because we can, when it comes to big life changes, we can look at it from different angles. So we can look at it from the first perspective of preparing the child. When it comes to preparing the child, we can use different things to prepare them. It can be, for example, um, we can use role play to prepare them for a certain event. For example, if it comes to going to a nursery, starting nursery, we can, for example, use scavenger hunt if it comes to moving houses, and then you could go to that area where the house is to explore what is it next to that new house that is going to be once you go there. A book, books, or creating a new creative stories for the child, where the child is not the main actor by their name, but, for example, an animal that has similar characteristics that with your child can be the main character, and then two houses that are changing can be, for example, a metaphor for a certain thing. So, for example, a child can be a crab, for example, that has its own shell, and then that crab has to change the house, and then something happened. We can create an interesting thing that happened, something scary happened, or something big happened. A big wave came, and then that crab had to move to another shell that is bigger, and then she had to pack her own things and then move to a different shell. Like having those characters that are not completely related to the child, but are in a symbolic and metaphoric way, can also help them. And then when it comes to actually moving and experiencing the change, kids like to repeat things, even younger kids, and because they don't have words to express what they've been through, so they would often either repeat it through play. So you probably notice, like, after doctor's visit, many kids would just take the doctor's kit and they would start putting bandages, or they would check the temperature, or they would just try to heal the doll, or they would come to you and they would do something like what the doctor did. They're doing that because they're trying to make sense of what their experience was. And they're trying to understand that they're safe again, even despite all those challenging events that happened. So the same with, for example, moving houses, moving countries. This is something that can be expected, and play can help them a lot in that. Just to give them the opportunity to play, even if the play looks messy, even if it looks scary and sad. This is what they feel in the moment. It's better that they express it through play than to just keep it in.
Thank you. That was very helpful. I think I'm going to use some of those. We said before, you are a play therapist. What is play therapy, and when do we need it?
Play therapy is counseling for kids. So when adults would go to a counselor or they would go to a therapist, they would use words to express how they feel. They would use words to analyze their thoughts and the situations that happen to them. But kids don't have the developmental capacity to just analyze their thoughts in a way that adults can. So when it comes to what I mean by analyzing the thought is, if something happens that I would talk to myself and I would say to myself as an adult, this happened to me and now it stopped. Now I'm safe, and then I will move on. For a child, it doesn't happen that way. So for them, sometimes they would feel that it's their fault. Sometimes they would feel that they're still in the moment of that something important that happened. Sometimes they would not have enough skills to deal with certain aspects of life. And this is where they can go to a play therapist who supports them overcome those challenges. So when they come to a play therapist session, it looks like a room filled with toys. And in the play therapy session, they can be the boss of their own play, of their own life, I would say. And then in play therapy, they would play out certain situations related to what they experienced before. And then the therapist is there to help them model the relationship that is a safe relationship for them to experience. And they'll model the emotional regulation if they go through big feelings. And the therapist would allow a child to actually just be who they are in the session without trying to change them. So even if they came to a session when they went through something challenging, the main goal of a therapist would not be to change who the child is, but to help the child accept what happened, overcome the challenge, and learn new skills to deal with a challenge that might appear again. And we use not only toys, but we use art materials, we use scent a lot, we use messy activities, we use movement, we use our own body and our own feeling of what we feel that the child is feeling. And this is what helps the child understand their own internal sensations and feelings.
So would you say that play is one of the best ways for parents to connect to their children?
I would. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes, I would say play, and different kinds of play, not only playing with toys, but playful engagement, playful interactions. This is what is really helping the child and parents stay connected early on. When they're babies, they might not need toys. Usually they don't need toys. They would be reacting to the voice. They would be reacting to a smile. They would be reacting to a silly engagement with a parent. And then as they grow, this will expand. So we might not be just smiling at them and they will interact, but we would be using some silly interactions when they could actually just engage with us and connect.
So I'm pretty sure every mom heard this at least once. What does it mean when a child says, "Mommy, come play with me"?
This is a very straightforward straightforward sentence that the child would come and say. And oftentimes it would mean, I miss you. I want to be next to you. I want to be near you. It can also mean I had a busy day. I need somebody to comfort me, or I'm very excited and I want somebody to share happiness with me. Depending on their energy, their body language, it can mean different things, but in general, it means I want to be near you and I love you.
That's beautiful. I think it switches the perspective of parents, when they know
Yes.
this, when they know what's behind, mommy can play with me for 100 times today, right?
Yeah.
But
And for
I think,
anything else, we can really use the translation. Like sometimes for everything that a child is sharing with us, it can be verbal or non-verbal. It can be through using toys or without using toys. We can actually use, we can just stop and translate what they're trying to tell us. And often it doesn't mean what they're actually showing us through their behavior. Sometimes their behaviors could mean something could seem very dangerous, or they may scare us. But behind it, once we translate it, once we dig deeper, it means so much more. And it often means that there is some deeper emotion that would, when once we know it, it would totally change the perspective to how we see the child and how we react to what they're trying to tell us.
definitely, definitely. But solve this mystery for us. Do we always have to play with the child when they ask us? Because we're busy. We have other things to do. There's laundry, there's dishes, there's, work. We're tired, we're overwhelmed, we are all over the place.
Of course, yeah. When we also have boundaries as adults, and boundaries are very important for kids to understand, and it is also something crucial for their development. So we can of course give them freedom, but we also need to give them boundaries and rules. And once, if we don't play with them all the time, they would also learn that we also have our own um, energy that can be full or low, and they will understand that this is my time, and I don't, at this time I will not engage with you in that moment. So it's
Mm.
okay to set boundaries and to say no, and to give them some other um not to give them, but to provide them with the the belief that we know that they will solve the challenge if they have it, and they can do it without us. Not to tell them, no, I don't care about you. I don't want to, now I just leave me alone. No, not in that way, but to just in a positive way to tell them, I feel very, I feel very tired right now. I had a very busy day and I don't feel like playing right now. We can either do this, that is more quiet, or you can do something by yourself. And I really believe you will be able to manage. Younger
Right.
kids can understand if we are consistent.
Okay. So you're saying it's important for parents to stay quiet sometimes and observe the child play from the sidelines. Is
Definitely.
that what you're saying? Yeah. All right.
Definitely, yes. Especially because if we would always talk for them in their play, we will interrupt them. So um, this being quiet is also connected with your previous question. So it helps us to set boundaries easily. If we teach them to always rely on us in talking what they have to do, in giving them solutions to their playful challenges, doing things for them, if something happens, for example, they're building a tower, the tower falls down, and then we immediately jump in and fix it for them, they would expect it to happen all the time, and they would be less independent when it comes to their
Mm.
play. And when we give them the chance to just fully play freely with their own ideas without us mixing in our own ideas, then it will be easier for us to set boundaries once we need to step away and just do our own things. And it's very nice to look at them while they play. It's in play therapy. Um, if somebody would just observe from the outside, uh, people would think that a therapist really doesn't do anything because it really does seem like that. Because a therapist sits next to the child and observes, and observes by observing. I observe my own feelings and I observe child's play and their own feelings. And sometimes I could be sitting from the distance and I would observe their play. And only when it's necessary, I would jump in and I would use my words to give them meaning to their play. But I wouldn't interrupt them. I would allow them to play in the way they need to play. Because if I would just guide their play, if I would just direct them all the time, they wouldn't have even the chance to they wouldn't have the chance to do what they had in mind to do. They wouldn't be creative to do what they had in mind to do. They would be guided by my own idea and not their own idea, because they wouldn't even have the chance to create their own idea.
Okay. Here's something that just came to my mind. What should we do when a child tells us they're bored?
um, depending on yeah, depending on us, I know this is a very this can be challenging to hear, because when a child is struggling, we don't want them to struggle, and it hurts our heart to hear that. Yeah.
We just play
But
some TV for them, or
yeah, well, it still depends on your time and your own energy. Sometimes giving them TV, it can be okay, but in those moments when they say I'm bored, still it's very important um, to believe that they can solve the problem. This is the first initial thought that has to come to our mind, that their play is enough, they're enough for what they're trying to do, and they don't need us to solve their challenge. They can do it by themselves. If a challenge is too big, they might need certain guidance, certain ideas, or curious questions. For example, I noticed that you have a pile of paper in your room. I wonder if you would like to draw something, or just to tell them, I know that you will be able to solve this, without engaging into a further discussion, but just to allow them to solve it. And then once they solve it, they'll be so much proud of themselves, and it will really support their resilience, because it's like when they solve something that was hard for them and they struggled with it, their whole window of tolerance expands, and they learn. So now I was successful in this, and I know next time if the same thing happens, I can be successful, and I don't need somebody to help me with this challenge. I might need somebody to help me with something else, but for this now I know I can handle it.
they say boredom created the world. You know, somebody was bored and they invented fire. Then somebody was born, and then here we are having Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of buzz around the risky play and free play,
Hmm.
and a lot of parents don't really understand what it is. A lot of them do. So here's you. You're an expert. Tell us, what are the myths about the risky and free play, and can you bust them for us?
I would say that the main myth, or yeah, we can call them myths, that the parents are uh, challenged with when it comes to risky play, is that it's unsafe, and it's scary, and those are two most common ones when I have parents who talk to me about it. And when it comes to those two, um, it's important to understand that we can still allow risky play, and it can still be safe, but we don't have to focus on the safety 100%, and uh, just because it's risky play. So like it has to
Okay,
have certain
give us an example. Give us an example. How can parents embrace risky play in a safe way, and what are the
risk.
benefits for the child?
We can look at the risky play from different sides. So, for example, if we are looking at the risky play by playing with certain tools, because this is one of the risky play that kids are interested in, for example, using cutlery, we can do that by allowing them the chance to use cutlery by being supervised by doing it, and putting some risk management in place. So, for example, there are certain knives that can be safe for kids. They can start by using wooden knife, then they can move towards a knife that is less sharp, and then the sharp knife. In Montessori pedagogy, they like to use, for example, they like to use real iron for kids, and they say that it's safer to use real iron than a play iron, because if a child uses play iron to play, then once they see a real iron that wasn't alive to them to use, they will not know what it means, and they will hurt themselves. So risky play, although it seems scary, it it minimizes the risk later on in life, because when they have the chance to play with it early on, then they will be able to know what to do with it later on. Then when it comes to a child wanting to run far away from the parent because it happens in the park, this is another element of risky play. They would want to run away. So this is another thing we can talk to them about, or just give them boundaries, certain limits. So you can go up to this point. When you see this big tree with red flowers, this is where you stop. Or we can just have a certain sign, a whistle, or a certain sound that they can react to, and we practice with them at home by going to a different room and then coming back. And this is another thing that they can use. climbing as well. It can be done as well in a safe way by, if it's done, for example, climbing on the beach. If they fall on the sand, they cannot hurt themselves that much compared to, for example, if they climb from a very sharp rock. So we can start by seeing where we feel comfortable about, starting from there, and then slowly increasing depending on what their abilities are. And another thing that is important that I noticed, well, two things that I noticed last summer especially, I haven't seen a child with scraped knees. I don't know if you did, but
Mine.
it's so hard to find a child with knees that are hurt. And I was very interested by that, and I didn't like
Yes,
to see that.
yes, I agree. I think we all have some scars on our bodies from when we were children, because that's the way
We
we
do,
grew up, no? Yeah,
yeah,
now not a lot of kids. I said to someone today, I think there's no space on my son's head that didn't have a bump. Because he keeps, you know. But yeah,
yeah.
I understand what you mean with risky play and why it's important. And let's finish up with the free play. What is free play? So you're an expert, and tell us what is free play and why is it so important for child development?
Yeah, so I think we talked a lot about certain elements of free play so
Yes,
far. Yes,
just
so
frame
free
it for
play,
us.
yes. So when it comes to free play, so free play is, I would use my own words to describe it. Like it's a way of letting the child play the way they feel they should be playing. So it's child-led way of playing. So for them to be able to choose the toys they want, to choose the way how they want to play without being directed by another person who will tell them you should be playing in this way. And for them, free play is everything that we talked about before. It's really beneficial for them to develop self-confidence, to develop resilience, to support their emotional and social development, to practice like solving challenges, to practice interacting with other people. They may use free play to suddenly start creating some playful activity, and they would interact with parents or with a sibling, or they would use toys to talk with them, and then also way of them to express what was happening in their life, and then make sense of what happened in their life. So everything that I mentioned can be summed up in the word free play. So it's something that they can be using to fully express themselves.
Thank you, Julia, so much for taking the time to talk to me and give all these valuable insights and tips for all the parents out there who are going to see this video. I hope everyone will be able to benefit from something from this conversation. So until next time we meet, maybe on a webinar, because you do webinars and seminars, probably not so much now with the baby on the way. But until next time, I will invite everyone to follow your page, julia.playducate. Did I say that
Yeah.
right? Yes. And I'm gonna just wish you all the best in the next chapter of your life, which is
Thank you
beautiful
so
and challenging at the same time.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you to everyone who's going to watch this recording and this video. This was the first out of many expert insights that I'm planning to do on this page. We'll see in which form now that we have so many troubles with the life. So let's see how we continue. And again, thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge with us.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope it was helpful. If anyone has some other questions, they can always send me a message on Instagram, or they can send it through you. And I'm always happy to respond. So yeah, I organize webinars. Hopefully next month I will be organizing one, depending on when the baby decides to come. But let's see. And in future, I hope to see you somewhere else, and wish you lots of success with other experts videos. And I hope that it will work
Thank you.
better with Instagram Live.
Thank you. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. So
Yeah.
we'll see you on the other side. Thank you so much, Julia, and good night.